Welcome into Off the Hook Sports. Caleb Calhoun here. Happy Friday to everybody. We've got a lot to get to today as we're going to discuss the Tennessee football passing offense and what to expect from it this year. We're going to transition from that over into the different position groups that actually replaced starters and which ones will be better and which ones will be worse, what we think on each of them. I'm going to talk about that. That'll be hot or cold. We've got potential upsets for Tennessee this year. What are the most likely which road game are they most likely to suffer an upset in? They seem to have one every year, and we're going to discuss all four road games this year in which they are most likely to lose. And that'll be 4 downs. Actually, it'll just be potential upsets in general, but still, we're going to talk about all 4 of them. No All-American Vols. No All-American Vols on the ESPN All-Time All-American team. That's going to be what the H, and that's going to be kind of a wild one because it's a little weird that there's going to be no All-American Vols. I'm just going to point that out. Also, we'll close with marquee games. Will Tennessee have one of the marquee games of the week, any of the games this year? I got one that I think will happen that'll be bank on it. So hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn on your notifications. We are brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. We broadcast live at 10 a.m. Eastern every weekday, live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Also, my own channel where I am going to start expanding my coverage and talk about sports beyond college football. I'm returning to that this week. I took summer off. I took time off to just during the summer for personal matters, but I will be back on my own channel, Sports Nightcap. I want you guys to all check that out. Hit that like and subscribe button. Link is now in the chat, and it's also in the description down below. Sports Nightcap is a channel. I go live every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday nights after big games of those days. So just discuss sports of the week. Let's have a little fun. We'll talk about a lot of other things, particularly with NFL season approaching. We will have a lot to talk about. That's going to be a lot of fun. So check that out. I'll be live again Sunday night. Link again is in the description down below and in the chat. And let's get rolling with today's tough question. And it's this: will Tennessee's passing offense be more or less efficient than it was last year? Now, Tennessee's passing offense, I want to set the narrative. I want to set this up first. Last year, with Nico Iamaleava, Tennessee as a team, and I'm going to count Gaston Moore, Jake Merklinger, and even Neely Schuler. I'm going to throw the entire passing stat line out to you guys. Had 2,875 yards. Averaged 7.7 yards per attempt, 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. The year before, with Joe Milton, they averaged 7.7 yards per attempt, 22 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, threw for 3,162 yards. In 2022, the legendary year, the legendary Hendon Hooker year, as a team, they threw for 4,200 yards, 38 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and 10.1 yards per attempt. And in 2021, Heupel's first year, they had 8.9 yards per attempt, threw for 42 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. You guys see where I'm going. 2021 and 2022, the passing offense was significantly better than 2023 and 2024. Last year was their least efficient passing offense that they've had since Josh Heupel has been at Tennessee. Will Tennessee throw for more yards as a team this year than they did last year, regardless of who is quarterback, which we think is going to be Joey Aguilar? That is the poll question. That is today's tough question. It is brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. And I'm setting it up the poll question now. Will Tennessee throw for more yards as a team this year than it did last year? And you guys can say yes or no. You guys let me know about that on the poll question. Again, today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. I'm going to say yes, I think they will. And the biggest reason I think they will is because I think I've talked about how I think the receivers are going to be better. While I think the offensive line may struggle in the interior, I think the pass blocking will be better because they return a tackle in Lance Hurd. Returning one tackle and having a 5-star freshman start at the other spot when it's an easy position to pick up for Josh Heupel is better than having 2 tackles playing with sprained ankles, one in his first year in the program, which you had last year at the beginning of the year, halfway through the year. But the biggest reason I think they will throw for more yards is I think the success Dylan Sampson had last year is going to reset how teams play defense this year. Now, let's talk about that for a minute. So one of the biggest things that happened with Tennessee, and Ollie Lane broke this down for us, and it was a thing that started with Josh Heupel against Missouri in 2023. Against Missouri in 2023, Tennessee had lost 35-7, I think, wasn't it? It was a bad loss. They were favored going into that game. Why did they lose? Eli Drinkwitz threw out a 3-3-5 shell defense that no one had thrown at Tennessee to that point. Nobody. Laid the blueprint for how to slow down the Heupel offense. Fast forward to this year. Brent Venables did that at Oklahoma. The exact same thing. Josh Heupel said, you're going to do that? I'm going to stick to the ground game. Josh Heupel stubbornly stuck to running the ball, kept it on the ground, and as every team tried it, he just kept running the ball. That's how he got to 10-2, and Dylan Sampson set the school record for rushing yards and rushing touchdowns and became the SEC Player of the Year. I think with that happening, and then the general narrative of running backs being valued again because of Saquon Barkley going to the Eagles and then winning the Super Bowl, which, yes, is a part of this, I believe that Tennessee, that defenses are not going to play the 3-3-5 shell as much this year against Tennessee. And because of that, there will be way more opportunities for those bear throws downfield like you saw in 2022 with Hendon Hooker at the home. That's the biggest thing I think is going to happen, is because there will be so many more open receivers down the sideline like there were a couple of years ago, because teams are going to abandon the 3-3-5 shell that they were in last year, given the success Dylan Sampson had. But it will be tested early. I don't think it'll happen in September. It's going to really depend on the Georgia game and how well Tennessee runs the ball in that game, because I think everybody's going to stick with this plan against Tennessee until they prove otherwise. Georgia won't, to be fair, because Georgia under Kirby Smart, they stick with their standard 3-4 because they pretty much trusted the fact that their cornerbacks can handle Tennessee's receivers one-on-one no matter what. That's what got Tennessee in 2022 at Georgia. 2023, they just didn't have the right quarterback to do it. And last year, it's what got them to. Georgia's never really worried about this offense because their cornerbacks are just fast enough to hang with Tennessee's receivers down the sideline. However, I do think Tennessee's offense will be able to hit another gear for a bunch of different reasons, but the biggest reason being defenses will change, will revert away from the 3-3-5 because of the success Tennessee had in the running game last year. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
The poll question up: will Tennessee throw for more yards as a team this year than it did last year? 88% of you say yes, 12% of you say no. I tend to agree. Now, let me throw in a caveat, though. And again, I think part of that is, I think if they start Joey Aguilar, they'll throw for more yards because Joey Aguilar won't be as afraid to take risk as Nico was, so he'll just be a gunslinger. That's another big reason they could throw for more yards. The receivers being better, there could be more open receivers. Again, I talked about the defensive scheme, but let me throw one big caveat in there. The defensive scheme, there's a reason it may not change. And it's this in particular. I think there's a strong possibility the defensive coordinators are going to want to test Tennessee's interior offensive line. They replaced everybody from last year. They may have gotten gashed on the ground they may not trust the interior offensive line to allow them to be gashed on the ground the same way this year. And if that's the case, I think they might stick in the 3-3-5 format, because again, the 3-3-5 format would help them. They might think that they just need 3 down linemen to stop the run anyway, because they don't trust Tennessee's interior offensive line. So we're going to have to see how that plays out. But as a whole, I still think the success Dylan Sampson had last year will make defensive coordinators hesitate just enough, which will in turn allow Tennessee to absolutely air it out at times. And then Joey Aguilar basically being a gunslinger, assuming he's the starter, and it looks like he will be. I mean, that's going to be a big part of this too. So when you take all that into account, I have a pretty strong feeling that Tennessee is going to I have a pretty strong feeling that Tennessee's going to be able to air it out a lot more. To the message board, Georgia tried to undress our receivers in 2022. They contained Hyatt by pulling his clothes, not by running as fast as Hyatt. Adam, it wasn't about Jaylen Hyatt. No, it wasn't about Jaylen Hyatt in 2022. Jaylen Hyatt was open a lot because of how Brew McCoy and Cedric Tillman before then dictated coverage. Cedric Tillman was back, wasn't 100%. It was raining. On top of that, Brew McCoy was still on the other side, and it didn't matter who they threw out there. Georgia's cornerbacks were hanging with the wideouts the whole way down the sideline. And because they were hanging with the wideouts the whole way down the sideline, Jaylen Hyatt couldn't get free. That's really what was happening. Nobody was dictating coverage. They were a tough, more physical team, and Heupel wasn't ready for it. Tennessee didn't have the receivers ready to handle it. That's the reason. Georgia won that game 27-13. They could have won that game 127-13 if they really wanted to. Okay, so I mean, I honestly do think that Georgia was just significantly better than Tennessee was last year. I don't think there's any debate on that. Adam says, easier to improve our pass protection than it is to improve upon last year's run blocking. Yes, exactly. The pass protection should improve. But again, the question, even though the reason this is today's tough question is it comes down to the defensive schemes against Tennessee. And I think coordinators will be more hesitant to run that 3-3-5 shell. But I also think they won't be as hesitant as they would have been had Tennessee returned all the key pieces of their running game, including the interior offensive line and Dylan Sampson. And the fact that it was only 1 year usually takes defensive coordinators 2 years to fully adjust. So we're going to see how that goes. Hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell. Turn your notifications on. Portions of the program are brought to you by Chattanooga Mortgage. Congratulations. Your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier. Chatwith2tsmortgage.com. Chatwith2tsmortgage.com. It is time for Hot or Cold. And it's brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily updates, facebook.com/sports treasures TN, facebook.com/sports treasures TN. And Hot or Cold involves Tennessee's position groups, and it actually plays off our last topic. Tennessee replaces 9 starters on offense. They replace 3 rotational players on the defensive line plus an edge rusher. They return everybody in the back 7 of their defense. Which of the position groups in which they have to replace starters will be better than last year and worse than last year? And are you hot on overall? That is Hot or Cold. It, again, is brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. City Heat and Air, 50 years in East Tennessee. Not City Heat and Air, excuse me. Brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia. Daily updates, facebook.com/sports treasures TN, facebook.com/sports treasures TM. Tennessee's, we're going to play Hot or Cold for each position. So let's get rolling where they have to replace starters. And let's get rolling with the most obvious position, quarterback. Tennessee has to replace Nico Iamaleava because he transferred to UCLA. Are we hot or cold on Tennessee being better at quarterback this year? I've split the baby constantly on this, but even by splitting the baby, it's hot. Tennessee will be better at quarterback this year. Not necessarily because they replaced Nico Iamaleava, though. Because, let me be clear on this. I've said, and I'm sticking with it, I think Tennessee would have been better with Nico Iamaleava this year than they will be with any of the quarterbacks they have. However, any of the quarterbacks they have will be better than Nico Iamaleava was last year. So I'm hot on the quarterbacks being better, but not because they got rid of Nico Iamaleava. Now, offensive tackles. They have to replace one of two. And Lance Hurd and David Sanders Jr. Again, I'm hot on them being better at offensive tackle. Even though they're starting a true freshman with David Sanders, Lance Hurd is 100% and now fully ingratiated into the system at left tackle. David Sanders at right tackle is a 5-star freshman phenom, one of those rare offensive linemen who can start as a freshman. I believe that. And also, tackle is not a hard position to pick up in Josh Heupel's system. So all those things make it hot. I'm hot on the tackles. Interior offensive line, center and guards. I'm cold on that group being better. There's no way you're replacing Cooper Mays, Andre Carrick, and Javonte Spraggins. You can sell me on William Satterwhite, Sam Pendleton, Jesse Perry, Wendell Moore Jr., Max Anderson, and maybe they will be serviceable. Maybe they have raw potential, but you can't replace those three guys. Cooper Mays and Javonte Spraggins have been starting in Josh Heupel's system for 4 years up to last year. They were very experienced in the system. And then when you throw Andre Carrick in there too, who was in there for 2 years, you just can't replace all three of those guys. I'm very cold on Tennessee's interior offensive line being better. Tight ends, they have everybody back. All right. Wide receivers. I'm hot on them being better. Everybody's concerned about the receiver depth. I don't care. Last year, Brew McCoy was not 100% returning from his broken leg. And he started as the go-to wideout to dictate coverage. He couldn't dictate coverage. He had lost a step. Dante Thornton was the wideout on the other side. He had lost a step because he was coming back from an injury. Squirrel White was in the slot. He was playing with a separated shoulder. Mike Matthews this year, now with the year in the system, will be better than Brew McCoy was last year as the go-to wideout. Chris Brazzell II had to fill in last year because Dante Thornton was working his way back from injury and Brew McCoy wasn't 100%. That's why he is the only returning receiver who caught a lot of balls last year. He had 29 catches for 333 yards and 3 touchdowns. Even if he's not 100%, I still think him as the number 2 wideout or whichever freshman or walk-on they throw in, that complementary with Mike Matthews will be better than Brew McCoy and Dante Thornton or Brew McCoy and Chris Brazzell or Chris Brazzell and Dante Thornton were last year. And then in the slot, Braylon Staley has a lot of potential. I think he will be better than Squirrel White because Squirrel White was hurt last year, and Boo Carter, if he gets work in the slot, and I think he will also be better than Squirrel White was last year. So I'm very hot on the receivers being better than they were last year. Now, on to the defensive side. Defensive tackle. Tennessee has to replace Amari Thomas, Elijah Simmons, and Omar Norman Lott. They return Jackson Moy, Bryson Eason, and David Hobbs. Those 6 guys were all in the rotation together last year. And Thomas, Moy, and Eason, Moy, and Hobbs are all still there. Can Tennessee be better at the defensive line with the other guys that they're about to have step into the role? That includes Grand Valley State transfer Josh Shell, rising sophomore Jamal Wallace, rising returning contributor Nathan Robinson. All these players have been in the system, plus 3 freshmen, Charles House III, Isaiah Campbell, Ethan Utley. No, I'm cold on the defensive tackles. They won't be better than what they had last year. Omari Thomas was a heck of a leader. I know Bryson Eason is a good leader like that this year, but those 2 together were incredible last year. And Omar Norman Lott wrapped up everybody last year. He never let anybody get by him in tackles. He was incredible as a pass rusher and a run stopper. And Elijah Simmons, while he could never stay healthy when he was out on the field, was a rare physical specimen. Now, I do think Jackson Moy will take a huge, huge leap this year. I think he'll take a huge leap. But at the same time, I don't see much more of a leap possible for Bryson Eason. Jackson Moore and David Hobbs will both take huge leaps. I don't think Bryson Eason will be able to take the same leap. And I don't think the other 3 guys that are stepping in could offset the guys that were departed or what the starters that will be the main starters this year, what the returning production was last year for Tennessee. I don't think they can do that. So I'm cold on that. And finally, edge rusher. Tennessee has to replace James Pierce. but they return Joshua Josephs. Are you guys ready for my hot take? I'm hot on them being better at edge rusher this year. I'm hot on them being better at edge rusher this year. Why am I hot on them being better at edge rusher this year? Because James Pierce, as good as he was, drew a lot of attention, which helped Joshua Josephs be effective. Nobody on that team is going to draw as much attention this year. But Jordan Ross is going to be better than James Pierce. He's more physically gifted, and no one's accounting for him, which will make him and Joshua Josephs very effective at different times. But Jordan Ross will be a breakout superstar. Caleb Herring will also be in that mix, but Jordan Ross will be a breakout superstar. The final hot or cold, though, by Sports Treasures, we go back to the offense. Again, one more returning starter. I mean, one more position without a starter returning, and that's running back. Hot or cold on the running backs, Peyton Lewis, Deshaun Bishop, and Star Thomas. I'm cold on that. I mean, whatever you want to tell me, and maybe you can believe in Peyton Lewis, and I think that he does have raw talent and rare potential, but Dylan Sampson ran so hard last year, and you can't just offset that production. I mean, Dylan Sampson set the school record for rushing yards and rushing touchdowns in a season. How can I be hot on the Tennessee running backs being better this year, even as a unit? Not happening. Hot or cold, brought to you by Sports Treasures, 50-year, carrying over 5 million Sports Treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia daily updates. Facebook.com/Sports Treasures TN.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
So to recap on hot or cold, quarterback, better. Running back, worse. Interior offensive line, worse. Offensive tackles, better. We're 2-2. And then wide receivers, better, 3-2. On the other side, defensive tackle, worse, 3-3. Edge rusher, better, 4-3. Of the 4 of the 7 positions in which they have to replace starters, they will be better at. And then obviously tight end, they'll be better. Linebacker, they'll be significantly better. And secondary, once Jamal McCoy is fully healthy, they will be better there too. So guys, looking at it, that's 7 positions they'll be better at versus 3 they'll be worse at. And even if they're worse at this in the secondary at the beginning of the year, due to Jamal McCoy not being healthy, you're still 6-4. I fail to see why Tennessee may not be a better team this year as I broke it down. As I broke all that down and looked at it, they'll be better. Oh, and by the way, at special teams, I just want to point out, they return Jackson Ross and Max Gilbert. So, you got to, I mean, that's a really underrated part of special teams. Now, another underrated part of special teams that we're not talking about enough is, let's be fair here, Tennessee does have to replace its long snapper. And that is one of the most underrated positions in football. They lost Matthew Solinsky. They got John Rosen and Bennett Brady. They got to replace them. We're going to see how that goes. However, at the same time, while they do have to replace their long snapper, they have a lot of other things going for them. And that's why I do think they look like they should be better overall as a team because they'll be better at 6 positions and only worse at 4. I mean, there's no other way to spin that. Portions of the program are brought to you by Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. HempHouseChatWith2Ts.com, HempHouseChatWith2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off when we come back. Oh, and by the way, yeah, defensive end. I forgot to mention that on the defensive line. They'll be better on the defensive end because they have everybody back. Tyree West and Dominic Bailey, plus and Marion Dye and Tyree Weathersby, as David Speaks points out. Great point. So anyways, HempHouseChatWith2Ts.com, HempHouseChatWith2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off. When we come back, we're going to talk about potential upsets for Tennessee this year. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the hook sports.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. they'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Hello, ma'am. I'm here to look at that plumbing problem.
Oh boy. Yep, you're gonna need a whole new sink.
If this toilet is no good, you're gonna need a new one ASAP. You are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk. Have you heard about our service plan?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn your notifications on, tell a friend we are building something great here at Off the Hook Sports and want you to be a part of it. Also, as I told you guys off the top of the show, link is in the description down below. I'm returning my coverage on Sports Nightcap, my personal show where I just talk random sports with you guys for fun. That's going to be up. That'll be back on Sunday night. Putting a link in the chat now. Come follow me there. I'm live every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday nights. Stick with me. We have a lot of fun on that. I had a lot of fun during the summer before I went on a break from that. But now with football season gearing up, NFL season, I'm gonna get back to that. Talk a little pro football with you guys and some other news that's happening. So follow me there. And portions of the program are brought to you by HoundDogs of Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. HDKnoxville.com. HDKnoxville.com. All right. Mississippi State is planning a whiteout game for Tennessee on September the 25th. They're doing a whiteout to honor the 25-year anniversary of their 43-41 overtime victory over Texas A&M in the 2000 Independence Bowl. I actually remember that game. That was a heck of a game. That was one of the most fun games of my life. It's like one of my most nostalgic time periods is being 11 and 12. Christmas break is going on, so you're home from school and you're just watching all these bowl games that really carry no weight, but that was the time when people actually cared about winning bowl games. And man, that was one of the most exciting ones. For those who don't remember that one, Texas A&M scored in overtime to go up, I believe it was 41-35. And as they kicked the extra point, Mississippi State blocked it, ran it back the other way in the snow and scored to make it 41-37. So then when they scored a touchdown on their overtime, they won 43-41. It was a legendary moment. It's one of the most legendary moments in all of college football. Man, that game was so beautiful. That was peak college football, and it was snowing in Shreveport, Louisiana. That was just legendary. So they're going to commemorate that this year when they play Tennessee for a whiteout game. That's fine. So Tennessee will probably wear their orange jerseys, maybe their black jerseys. We don't know. Here's the question, though. Should Tennessee be concerned about that game? Under Josh Heupel, Tennessee has had an issue once a year suffering a loss on the road to a team they should have beaten. Now, to be fair, the 2021 team did not suffer any road losses to teams they should have beaten. However, that's because they were never favorites on the road that year. So you couldn't suffer a road loss. They did have a couple of wins as underdogs, though, to their credit. But in 2022, we know the infamous Columbia collapse where South Carolina won 63-38. May have been some cheating and sign stealing going on in that game. Who knows? But Tennessee would have gone to the college football playoff had they not lost that game. Then comes 2023. Tennessee's favorite at Florida. They lose. Then they're favorite at Missouri. They lose. Then last year at Arkansas, they lose. Cost them a chance to go to the SEC title game and a chance to either host a first-round playoff game or get a first-round bye. So in all scenarios, Tennessee, they've definitely cost themselves in terms of the playoff twice because of a road upset loss. So now comes this year. Should they be concerned of a road upset loss? Now, Tennessee plays 5 games away from home. Right off the top, there are 2 games that wouldn't be road upset losses. As of right now, Alabama and Florida. So throwing those out the window because they're going to be underdogs to Alabama. And while they may be favorites at Florida by the time the season gets to that game in November the 22nd, I can't say they'll be favorites at Florida right now because early lines have them as underdogs and Florida is more highly ranked. So we're going to play 4 downs, brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln. And 4 downs is going to be this. Which game away from home, which game is Tennessee most likely to suffer an upset loss in? All right. And we're going to name them at Mississippi State, at Kentucky. Actually, we'll do this. Syracuse and Atlanta, at Mississippi State, at Kentucky, a random home game. Okay, you guys go ahead and vote on that. And look, this is a negative Nancy one, but the question is, which game is Tennessee most likely to suffer an upset loss in? And I'm going to name the 4. And again, this is 4 downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford Lincoln volume dealer. And we bring you 4 downs from Cooper Mays, who, again, I don't have the board because Dave has the soundboard and Dave's off. And the soundboard, for those who don't know, every time we do 4 downs, we use Cooper Mays' voice for the soundboard. And so I'm going to imitate Cooper Mays. Cooper Mays, it's all in love and good fun. And if you have a problem with it, just tell me. I will stop. But I'm doing this out of respect for you because I think you are the best center and interior offensive lineman Tennessee has had in 20 years. I love you, brother. I love you. I think you are amazing. And I love everything about how you play and everything about how you play the game and how you approach it. So with all due respect to Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe. All right. Cooper Mays is asking you guys to hit like and subscribe. Now, which game is Tennessee most likely to suffer an upset loss in? Coop here. First down. Syracuse. They opened the year technically away from home at Syracuse, against Syracuse in Atlanta. That's a strong possibility of an upset. Now, why? Tennessee won't be fully healthy in the secondary because Jermon McCoy, who's coming back from an ACL tear. Syracuse has an offensive-minded coach in Fran Brown. Tennessee is breaking in a new quarterback. So the new quarterback could cause them issues. Being away from home can cause them issues, even though I think it'll effectively be a home game for Tennessee. And an offensive line going up against a secondary that could be compromised is an issue for Tennessee. What's going to work in Tennessee's favor with that game, though? Fran Brown, Tennessee is lucky that Fran Brown, despite having a great first year going 10-3 and finishing the year in the top 25, has to replace a ton of starters. Okay. A ton of starters. Now, I spoke out of turn for a minute. I get it. Fran Brown's a defensive minded coach, not an offensive minded coach, but Syracuse won last year with offense. They got by on offense. That's what they were doing. That's why I pointed out. I mean, they set records offensively last year, but still going back to it, Syracuse has to replace a lot of starters on their own. So it's like a first year for Fran Brown. But given what Tennessee has to replace, that's a game of the unknowns. It's a game that could wildly swing one way because of just chemistry issues for both teams, even if Tennessee is significantly better and heavily favored. So that's a possible one. Cooper Mays here. Second down. All right, second down from Cooper is this. At Mississippi State. Now, Mississippi State last year went 2-10. They only lost to Tennessee 33-14, but I do believe that was the game in which Tennessee had to replace didn't have Nico for the second half, so they played Gaston Moore. So they were just trying to get out of there with a win. But anyways, okay. Mississippi State has, in my opinion, one of the best coaches in football in Jeff Lebby. I was shocked that they had such a bad first year last year, but then I realized Jeff Lebby, Lincoln Riley, Josh Heupel, Alex Golish, all part of this veer and shoot offense, all underperformed offensively last year. There was some sort of adjustment done in college football to figure out this offense, and it went everywhere. The question is Jeff Lebby smart enough to adjust and figure things out because of that? I think he is. Jeff Lebby was Josh Heupel's offensive coordinator at UCF when they went undefeated in 2018. Remember that, guys? And because of that, I think Jeff Lebby is smart enough, and I think he's going to completely turn things around. And so I think Mississippi State is a very strong possibility for an upset game because they have a very good chance of being undefeated when they face Tennessee. They opened the year at Southern Miss. Now, that's a road game, but Southern Miss was 1-11 last year and has to and fired Will Hall. They have a first-year head coach in Charles Huff. Even if you believe in Southern Miss and Charles Huff and their future, Mississippi State should beat them that year. They should win that game. Week 2, Arizona State. That is an upset alert game at Davis Wade Stadium in Starkville. I am telling you guys, I know Arizona State made the playoff last year. I am very high on Mississippi State upsetting Arizona State. That is a huge upset alert game on a Saturday night in Starkville. That is, guys, that's money. I'm telling you, that's money. That's an upset alert game. Week 3, Alcorn State. They're going to win that game. That's an easy win at home. They'll be 3-0. Then they're going to face Northern Illinois for week 4. Northern Illinois has, I think, a very good head coach in Thomas Hammock. You guys should watch what he said about the importance of the college experience last year, but they're still a mid-major. They're going to be at Starkville. I think Mississippi State should win that game. There is a very strong possibility they are 4-0 when Tennessee heads to town. And at worst, they might be 3-1. They will be riding high. This is the type of game Tennessee could suffer an upset loss in. So Mississippi State's a very dangerous team for Tennessee. They need to be careful with that game. Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down. Kentucky. By the way, I want to add one more point. Mississippi State is right before Tennessee goes on a bye. That's the one good news for them. But let's get to Kentucky now. No, you don't. Tennessee doesn't lose to Kentucky. All the ingredients for how Tennessee loses road games at night against decent teams, those were in play when Tennessee visited Kentucky the last 2 times in 2023 and 2021, and they won both of them. Kentucky's a worse program now with Mark Stoops. It is a trap game. On paper, this should be an upset. Kentucky's a decent team. Tennessee has to visit them, and it's between them playing Alabama and them playing Oklahoma. So it should be a trap game. This would be the easiest game to pick an upset in, but Tennessee doesn't lose to Kentucky. So I just don't think it's going to happen. 4 Downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. We broadcast live every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. 4th Down coming up after a quick message from Ted Russell Ford Lincoln.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 Volume 4 dealer.
Right now, get 0% APR, 0 down, and 0 payments for 90 days on select models, plus 2 years complimentary maintenance.
Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down. Tennessee's best chance at an upset, a random home game. Now, Oklahoma's ranked higher than them in the coaches poll. So, but I don't think that would be an upset because Tennessee's ranked higher than Oklahoma in the Oklahoma's ranked higher than Tennessee in the AP poll. Tennessee's ranked higher than Oklahoma's not ranked in the coaches poll. Tennessee is. With you take it that it's split and that it's at Tennessee, Tennessee would probably be favored that game if Vegas set the odds right now. So that could be an upset. ETSU, UAB, no. Arkansas, not after last year, no. New Mexico State, no. And Vanderbilt, no. But I put all that in there to say a random home game in the poll question. The poll question, what is Tennessee's most likely upset loss? Syracuse and Atlanta. At Mississippi State, at Kentucky, a random home game. A random home game wins 39%. Syracuse and Atlanta second, 30%. At Mississippi State, 22%. At Kentucky, 9%. I'm going to tell you guys this. It's Mississippi State. That's their most likely upset this year. Tennessee's most likely upset is to Mississippi State. That team is going to be significantly better. Watch out. I don't think you guys realize they have a very good coach. Don't just take last year into account. Take what you think Jeff Lebby can do going into this year, his track record, and then also the amount of momentum. Sometimes seasons get worse because they spiral, okay? That partially happened for Mississippi State last year after losing at... Remember, guys, they almost beat Arizona. One of the reasons I'm high on them, they almost beat Arizona State last year. They lost by a touchdown. And then they got blown out by Toledo and things went south. But they almost beat Arizona State last year. They're going to beat them this year. I'm going to say this. I'm actually going all out on them. Mississippi State is going to beat Arizona State this year. And I think they are Tennessee's most likely upset loss. You heard it here first. Portions of the program are brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used. East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. When we come back, we're going to discuss recent comments that came out by Derek Dooley, and it's going to be What the H. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the hook sports.
It's a new year, a new day, and Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln Knoxville.
Hello, ma'am. I'm here to look at that plumbing problem.
Oh boy. Yep. You're gonna need a whole new sink.
If this toilet is no good, you're gonna need a new one ASAP. You are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk. Have you heard about our service plan?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn on your notifications, tell a friend. Also, another reminder, I want you guys to check out my channel, Sports Nightcap, where I talk about other sports. We're going to get immersed in NFL season. I took the summer off from that for a while, particularly after the NBA draft, and just wanted to kind of get my bearings on things, but I'm going to be back Sunday night, every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. I will be there. Again, link in the chat down below and in the description down below. I will talk some NFL. I can't wait for the season to start. It's already underway. Who doesn't love NFL? Who doesn't love football season right around the corner? Again, hit the like and subscribe button. We now move on to Tennessee's favorite coach, everybody. Old Derek Dooley. Derek Dooley is back in the news. I told you guys about this. He's running for Senate in Georgia as a Republican. He's in the Republican primary right now. There are two other Republicans in that primary. I believe those Republicans are Mike Collins and, if I'm not mistaken, who's the other guy? You guys can tell me. It's somebody named Buddy, right? He's in it with he's in it with Buddy. Oh my gosh, Buddy Carter. Buddy Carter. Mike Collins, Buddy Carter, and Derek Dooley are all running in the Republican primary. Who they are going to face Democratic Senator John Ossoff in 2026. I told you guys already. I think Derek Dooley's a skilled politician, even though he's never done it before. I think in many circumstances he could win a Senate seat. He sounded like a politician when he was hired at Tennessee, honestly. He came across as that. I mean, he won people over with a heck of a press conference. He can talk to people. He's very good at that. I also think that he missed his time, or he's running at the wrong time, because he's running in a purple state as a Republican in 2026. And what you don't want to do is run in a party opposite the president in a midterm in a purple state. For those, I mean, that's just, we all know how midterms work. Midterms, with very rare exceptions, by the way, usually go in favor of the party opposite the president at the time. The only exceptions are 2002, when the Republicans picked up 9 seats, I believe, and a ton in the House under George Bush, and that was in the post 9/11 moment where patriotism soared. Bush's approval was like 90%. 1998, when Bill Clinton and the Democrats actually picked up seats because people were mad about the impeachment scandal. And 1934. Those were the only times. 1934, 1998, and 2002 in the last 100 years. Okay? So, Derek Dooley, again, had he run in 2022 instead of Herschel Walker, he would have won. 2026 is a much more uphill battle for him. Well, Derek Dooley made even more news by doing something that I think might hurt him in the primary. I'm not so sure he's going to beat Buddy Carter or Mike Collins now, because he probably revealed something that maybe you shouldn't reveal. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter, but I feel like you shouldn't reveal it. And I want to share it with you. This is what he said in an interview recently. So here we go. Here's what Derek Dooley said on, I believe, Wednesday.
Probably went 20 years, Martha, where I didn't vote for a president. And I was immersed in my job as a coach.
He said he went 20 years where he didn't vote for a president. Now, I actually don't really care if you voted for president or not, if you voted in elections. That doesn't bother me at all. My question is, this is Derek Dooley being Derek Dooley, where he's dropping the ball in areas where he's not thinking. Why in the world would you volunteer the information that you didn't vote for president for 20 years? Why would you do that? You're in a Republican primary. You haven't even gotten to the general election yet. Again, in the general election, there's a lot more just standard things that go on that a lot of the stuff doesn't really matter on those things. But in a primary, when you still have to separate yourself from Buddy Carter and Mike Collins, why in the world would you volunteer the information that you didn't vote for president for 20 years? What in the world is he thinking? Again, we're seeing why he struggled recruiting. And someone has a great point. If he's so good at talking to people, why didn't he go talk to Von Bell just down the road in Chattanooga? You got me on that one. Why would you volunteer the information that you didn't vote in the presidential election for 20 years, but then you want to run for Senate? This is What the H, brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. They want to be your jeweler, looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
This is such a mistake by Derek Dooley to say he never voted for president. I mean, I know you can hate both parties, but if it's that way, then run as an independent or run as a member of a party, but then trash the party. Like this isn't going to be a big deal. I mean, this is going to be a big deal in the Republican primary. When did he start? He said COVID changed him. Okay, you're trying to win a Republican nomination, but you're admitting then that you didn't vote for Trump the first time in 2016, it sounds like. I'm not so sure this is going to work out for him. I don't think he's smart with how he's playing this. Maybe it works, but Georgia ran Herschel Walker in 2022. Georgia ran Herschel Walker in 2022, a seat that they should have won. I've told you guys, had Derek Dooley run in 2022, he would have beaten Raphael Warnock that year. They ran Herschel Walker. One of the things that worked against Herschel Walker was it turned out he wasn't registered to vote in Georgia and that he didn't vote, that he never voted before. So that was a seat that the Republicans picked Herschel Walker. They would have won. And that's when they should have picked Derek Dooley to run. That's when Dooley should have run. Dooley had already been fired or had already been fired by Missouri. He was already kind of a just assistant somewhere. He was already just, I think, an off-field assistant in Alabama. That would have been his year to run, was 2022 in Georgia, and he would have run, and he would have won. Instead, he picks 2026, and then he volunteers the information that he didn't vote. Why? See, I think stuff came out about Tommy Tuberville at the same time, having not voted when he was a senator in Alabama. Alabama is not a purple state. It's a red state. So he was going to win that no matter what. Two, in his primary, his challenger was Jeff Sessions, who, for those who don't know the inner workings of politics, had a big falling out with Donald Trump. So there was no way in the world that the Republican primary that Jeff Sessions was going to get out of any Republican primary. The fact that Derek Dooley would volunteer that he hasn't voted in a presidential election in 20 years, I'm sorry. I know what a lot of you guys are saying. I get it. I get your point. You're like, why would you want to brag about voting for either of these parties? And that does seem like that's what he's given off a vibe of saying, but come on. I don't think that's going to land that might land in a general with certain independents who feel certain ways, but how does that get you out of the primary? It doesn't. And people can say that he's got the Brian Kemp endorsement, and he might, and that might be a big help for him. I don't know. I think Brian Kemp has endorsed him. I'm not sure, but I don't think he has the Trump endorsement, and there's still Buddy Carter and Mike Collins. So this is a big primary fight. And I don't think you volunteer that information. What he's coming across as when he says that, let's be honest. When Derek Dooley says that, he is, and David Speaks has a great point. Tuberville was an accomplished head coach in Alabama too, with no nepotism ties. Tuberville had a lot of respect in Alabama for the success he had at Auburn. People actually liked him. What Derek Dooley is coming across as with the way he's running for Senate is somebody who's trying to carve out a legacy for himself out of his dad's name because, be separate from his dad's name because he couldn't do it in coaching. That is a huge mistake when you're trying to do that. And it looks like, and I understand the feeling. I do. You want to get out of your dad's legacy. You liked coaching. It didn't work out for you. And I've told you guys 1,000 times, I think Derek Dooley got a raw deal at Tennessee. I think a lot of bad breaks went his way. A lot of the bad breaks are his fault, by the way. But a lot of things worked against him. But if just a few things broke differently, he could have actually been a successful coach. It's the margin is very slim in whether or not a coach is a success or a failure at a school. Nick Saban almost got fired by Michigan State, by the way, guys. And he would have been fired had Michigan State not upset Ohio State in 1998, which is why Tennessee won the national title and played Florida State in that game. And with that in mind, Derek Dooley is just proving that he doesn't think things through because his timing, I told you, is bad. He was not smart to take the Tennessee job when he did. He wasn't even smart to take the Louisiana Tech job when he did. And he certainly wasn't smart to run for Senate when he did. But now he's also volunteering information that's going to turn more people against him. This is Derek Dooley throwing away. I actually think he could be a pretty good senator. I think Derek Dooley is a guy that's detail-oriented. He studies things. And I think he could be a very good senator. But at the same time, I don't think Derek Dooley is thinking things through with how he does all of this. So this is just Derek Dooley being Derek Dooley and stepping on his own toes, and something that he can be very good at. Portions of the program are brought to you by Peak IV Hydration in South Knoxville and Sevierville. Live your life to the fullest. Hydrate, rejuvenate, and elevate your health with Peak IV Hydration. PeakIVHydration.com. When we come back, the Michigan penalties are out, and we are discussing them. And it is bank, and it will be bank on it. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super Savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 Volume 4 dealer.
Right now, get 0% APR, 0 down, and 0 payments for 90 days on select models, plus 2 years complimentary maintenance.
Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at nfc1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Hit the like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn on your notifications. Portions of the program brought to you by Quality Tire Pros, serving Chattanooga community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive brake alignments, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com. Walk in and say, hey, Bo, Off the Hook Sports sent you. QualityTirePros.com. We close out the show with the Michigan sanctions. The NCAA has levied its punishment on Michigan. The Michigan Wolverines will face, per ESPN, a significant fine that is expected to be more than $20 million from the loss of postseason football revenue for the next 2 years. Sharon Moore, who has self-imposed a two-game suspension for 2025, will face an additional suspension in 2026. Outside of that, everything else is the same. No forfeiture of games, no sanctions, no vacated wins. Natty title stays. Michigan gets to keep its natty title. Also, though, there is a show cause for Jim Harbaugh, who will, again, not coach for 10 years, I believe, is what they're reporting. Jim Harbaugh is receiving a 10-year show cause. The suspensions for Michigan, by the way, will be, for Sharon Moore, will be week 3 against Central Michigan, and week 4 at Nebraska will be the suspensions for Chip Lindsey for Sharon Moore. I would assume that Chip Lindsey will step in and handle coordinator or head coaching duties, or Don Martindale, actually, who's the older one, who will probably handle head coaching duties during that time. Now, the ruling is expected to be announced officially at noon Eastern. So we, as of 11 a.m. Friday, we bring these to you earlier than expected. But this has basically been reported by ESPN. Ross Dellinger reports the show calls. Ross Dellinger is reporting that the show calls is coming for Jim Harbaugh. And it's 10 years for Jim Harbaugh, 8 years for Connor Stallions. And again, it's ESPN that is reporting the penalties for Michigan specifically. That's Pete Thamel, who is actually giving those out, and Dan Wetzel. What does all of this mean? Well, it's good and bad for Michigan. But which one outweighs which? The good or the bad? Here's the good. This is in the rear view. If you look at the way Michigan finished the season last year, and I still think Tennessee should be ahead of them, but if you look at the way they finished, Michigan finished by beating Northwestern, shocking Ohio State on the road, and beating Alabama. They were 5-5. They finished 8-5 with those 3 wins. They were clearly a much, much better football team at the end of the year, and they actually almost beat Indiana on the road right before then. They easily could have won their final 4 games to finish 9-4. Now, Alabama, that was a bowl game. Ohio State, it was on the road. I think Ohio State may have thrown that game. So I don't know how big of a finish, how important of a finish that was for them. But they fired Kirk Campbell. They now have Chip Lindsey. I think the investigation is in the rear view, and playing without that hanging over their head should help them a lot going into this year, particularly with week 2 happening, a game at Oklahoma, which will be the test of both. Those are 2 programs who expect to be better this year. And it's almost like a don't get fired game for Sherrod Moore and Brent Venables. So that's the good. It's out of their minds. The bad, $20 million, guys, this day and age, given the House settlements. That's, again, the loss of postseason football revenue over the next 2 seasons. That's an NIL budget. That's an NIL budget. Meaning they're going to have trouble getting certain players and outbidding teams on the open market in the NIL budget for certain players. So bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, life made better. Michigan is going to, the bad from this punishment outweighs the good for Michigan. Bank on it.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
All right. Bank on it. The bad outweighs the good. Again, guys, everybody's celebrating a $20 million deal as something, as is brought up a little bit earlier. I think it was, who was it that said it? Was it you, Adam, who said it? The price, we all know the price for stealing a national title. And then you said, we're excited over Adidas adding that much to the budget every year, and Michigan bought a natty with it. Yes, but that's the point. Like, it's $20 million that they are losing. That's worth Tennessee's apparel budget. That's a huge budget, guys. I think y'all are sleeping on just how big of a loss this is for Michigan. If this were 10 years ago, I wouldn't have cared about the fines and the penalties. It wouldn't have mattered. $20 million, though, in the NIL age is a lot of money given what has to be paid to players. Imagine if an NFL team just was told their cap is $20 million lower than every other NFL teams for 2 years. Guys, that would be a huge deal. They wouldn't win a national title. In the NIL age, that's a huge loss. Michigan being $20 million lower is a really big deal. Also, with the way Michigan approaches things to a certain degree, they approach things on the NIL front not by overspending to get a lot of players. They approach it by spending enough to keep the players they have to build chemistry. they won't have enough to keep the players they have. This is a really big deal. Now, I want to address some people on the message board. I get people being upset about thinking Michigan deserved more. Guys, the NCAA has made it very clear that they're moving away from postseason bans and vacated wins and stuff like that. I think Tennessee was the last one that they were doing that for. And to be fair to Tennessee on that, and to be fair to the SEC and the NCAA, Tennessee willingly cooperated in every way possible and didn't mind those forfeitures because they were trying to acknowledge everything went wrong so they could partially, it helped them fire Jeremy Pruitt for calls. That was a big deal. Tennessee wanted some of those infractions, wanted those punishments, because that way they could win in court against Jeremy Pruitt if he was going to sue for wrongful termination. So I don't actually, it's totally different than it is for Michigan. And I know I'm breaking with you guys. I don't have a problem with this punishment. I'm fine with it. Look, I get what people are talking about with the sign stealing. Yes, South Carolina stole. I think it benefited Tennessee because I do think South Carolina got access to those signs, and that's why they blew out Tennessee in that game in Columbia in 2022. However, and this is a big thing here, I want to point this out. If you suspect people are onto your signs, you should switch your signs up. Richard Sherman said the year the Seahawks won the Super Bowl in 2014, when they blew out the greatest offense in history with Peyton Manning, Wes Welker, Demaryius Thomas, that offense, where Peyton Manning set all the records and won MVP. Richard Sherman acknowledged they figured out Peyton Manning's signs. They got a hold of every single sign he had. That's why they look so bad at the Super Bowl. He admitted it. But Richard Sherman also said, had Peyton Manning switched things up at halftime, he'd have got us. He'd have come back because they had fully committed to knowing Peyton Manning's signs. And Peyton Manning, who's all about preparation, doesn't do a lot of in-game switcheroos. Peyton Manning screwed that up. He did. He should have switched the signs. Again, switch your signs if you're doing that. Adam says the Houston Astros got crucified for sign stealing pitching signals. Okay, Houston had mics and earpieces in them when they were batting. Okay, that's a little bit different. I mean, that was some high-tech sign stealing. Connor Stalions was going to a football game and videotaping people's signs. That's like, they weren't using the videotape in the game. There's already enough electronics used in college football. I don't really think it's the same level of cheating. I don't really have a problem with Michigan sign stealing. I never really did. If you don't like your signs being stolen, switch your signs. Everybody should have a backup to their signs that they switch in the middle of a game if they think someone's tapped into them. For the record, just so you know, Tennessee has figured out signs before from other college football programs. I don't know if they did it by videotaping them. I don't think they did. But who remembers that Cal game in 2006 when Tennessee won 35-18? They jumped out 35-0. It was a big turnaround. It was David Cutcliffe's first game back as offensive coordinator. Eric Ainge's first game under Cutcliffe, and Tennessee just absolutely dominated. Robert Meacham caught 2 passes, ran for touchdowns on both of them. He was playing a freshman cornerback with a broken hand. One of the reasons that game happened is there were rumors that Tennessee figured out Cal's defensive signs. That was a big deal. I'm sorry, I'm breaking from you guys. I don't really mind the sign stealing on this. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Banks & Jones, play to win. Why settle? T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. We broadcast live every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn your notifications on, tell a friend, leave a comment, tell me what you think. You guys all have a great rest of your weekend. I want to say again, I will be back live on my Sports Nightcap YouTube. I'm returning to that Sunday night. I'm live every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. Took time off post-NBA draft when sports was down just to get a break, but I'm on live on addition to this show every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern. I do Sports Nightcap every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday myself. I just dropped the link in the chat to the channel. Please go to that channel, hit that like and subscribe, tune in Sunday. If you do follow that, I will see you guys Sunday night. If you don't, I will see y'all Monday morning. Thank you guys all for tuning in with Caleb Calhoun. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports. You guys all have a great weekend.